Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a while. I have not been keeping up on this in the manner that I should have and the promise that I made, and I need to do better. Uh, if you didn't know, this video method of recording my uh, journey through the Bible is my way of keeping me held accountable so that I continue to read the Bible. And there's almost like a public eye, even if there isn't a public eye, because I'm not really getting any views, but it's still there. It's evidence of me either reading or not reading the Bible that day. It's evidence of that. So that's what I'm using this for. But anywho, I'm going to go ahead and hop into it today. I'll be reading Exodus chapters 19 and 20. 20 is the Ten Commandments, so I'm excited to get there. I have a lot to say about those. Let's hop right into it. Let's not waste any time. It says, on the first day of the third month, after the Israelites left Egypt, on that very day, they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, Rephidim, I could be saying that wrong, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. So it's one of those things where they use the term Israel for the people, and I have to kind of differentiate. There was a person named Israel, Jacob, and he was renamed Israel, and then these are his people, his descendants, the Israelites. So, and who all referred to as Israel collectively at times. It says, then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." So I want to take a moment to pause. It's kind of interesting that I'm reading this because of all the crazy stuff and all the conspiracies around Israel. I just want to go ahead and say I could not care less about Israel, Gaza. I don't. It's not. I'm poor. I'm barely able to feed myself and my kids. I'm barely able to manage my household, and my future's not looking too bright. So I'm not worried about another country at all. I could not care less. Could not care less. If they fail, if they fall, if they're bombed, if they're destroyed, don't care. My heart and prayer goes out to the people. But as for the infrastructure itself, as far as the countries concerned, don't care. Don't care. So Moses sent back, or sorry. So Moses went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, "We will do everything the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answers back to the Lord. Jump cut, had to sneeze there. I feel another sneeze coming on, so we'll see if that happens. My allergies are just god awful. Or I need to quit doing that. I need to quit doing that. They're awful. My allergies are just awful. We will do everything the Lord has said. So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking with you, and you will always put their trust. And will always put their trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready by the third day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not approach the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain is to be put to death. They are to be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on them. No person or animal shall be permitted to live. Only when the ram's horn sounds a long blast may they approach the mountain." So I'm going to stop right there. This is the first time biblically where God is called to kill someone for an action or inaction. Now, action in this instance. But I do know that there were a couple times earlier, I want to say it was two of Judah's sons who were killed, one for allowing his semen to get on the ground rather than in the woman he was having intercourse with, and the other one was just a wicked man, apparently, even though the whole world's wicked, why don't you just kill everybody? But outside of that, oh, and Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah. But this is the first time that I can remember where God has specifically said, if you do this, kill you, right? You're dead. All right. So this is the first time, stoning and arrows. So what a brutal thing to do to somebody. But okay. After Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them and he washed their clothes. Oh, and they washed their clothes. Then he said to the people, prepare yourselves for the third day, abstain from sexual relations. So that's another part where I think that a lot of us didn't know, or at least I didn't know. When you're fasting, you're supposed to also, obviously you're not eating anything except for drinking water. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to, of course, drink alcohol. But then you're also supposed to abstain from sexual relations, even with your spouse. That's part of the fast. It's a fast, not just physically, but also spiritually. But emphasis on the physical, because you're not supposed to have that physical relationship. So I've always found that interesting. I just wanted to mention that. I'm sure all of you already know that. I'm talking into the void, honestly. It says, on the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning and a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. I thought he said it'd be a cloud, but okay. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain trembled violently. Sounds almost like a volcano. Is Mount Sinai a volcano? I'll have to look it up after this. That's almost what it sounds like, a volcano. As the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voices of God answered him. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him. Now, I wonder when he called him, could everybody in the vicinity hear? I'm curious. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, go down and warn the people so they do not force their way through to see the Lord. And let me reread that one more time. Go down and warn the people so they don't force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who have approached the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us, put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy. The Lord replied, go down and bring Aaron up. Bring his brother. Go down and bring Aaron up with you. But the priests and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them. So here's a weird thing. God will refer to himself in third person, almost distinguishing himself apart from himself. It's a little weird. But, and I know sometimes I do it too. I have children. So what I'll do sometimes is, hold on, daddy's coming. Daddy's coming, don't worry. And I'm sure many of us all us parents know that. We tend to do that a lot. And I wonder if that's the context here. So Moses went down to the people and told them. So chapter 20, here we go, the 10 Commandments. And I actually want to start with this. Of course, I know, at least I have a loose understanding of the 10 Commandments. I'm not foreign to this idea. I do want to say this. Something that pulls me towards Christianity rather than something like Islam is that I can look at some of the phrasing or words of Islam and say those are objectively evil things to do. Whereas I believe personally that the 10 Commandments, what we're commanded to do by both of these sources, so I'm commanded by the Quran to do one thing, I'm commanded by the Bible to do another, that the 10 Commandments tend to be objectively good standards to follow morally and socially. I personally believe that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Let's do this. It says, and God spoke all these words. I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. It's one. No other gods before me. So let's stop and talk about that for a second. God is saying here that all that other stuff you may have heard about, the Egyptian gods, Greek gods, Roman gods. I know Rome is not a thing yet. I know that. But I know that Rome becomes a big part of later events. Roman gods, Mesopotamian gods, Eastern Asian gods, none of that. Get rid of all of that. I am the one God who created the universe. Now, why would I say that's objectively good? Because I personally think that our universe, uni meaning singular, came from one God. And if I'm going to worship somebody, I'm going to worship the master of this universe in which I reside. Okay? That's what God's essentially saying to me, personally. There's only one God. He created everything in existence. And I know that I personally have had a hard time with the concept of having God come before yourself and before your children. But I want you to think about that more broadly. And it ties to this. God came first, right? So if our universe wasn't here, if God didn't create our universe, then our children wouldn't matter anyway because they wouldn't exist. I wouldn't matter anyway because I wouldn't exist. So God is saying, I come before all that. I come before all that, both literally and in your spiritual life. So God has to come first. And that's another reason why I try to make these videos in the morning. Yeah, I'll get a shower so I can look a little bit presentable or maybe get some of my congestion out of my face. But God comes first. And I need to stick to that more. So God says, have no other gods before me. Have nothing before me. You're first. And again, that's both physically, because without God, no universe, no you, no nothing. And spiritually. Next one, it says, you shall not make yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord, your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing love to thousands of generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. So outside of the stuff about punishing the children for the sins of the father, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, I didn't have anything to do with my dad. I wasn't even raised by my parents. But I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think what God's saying here is don't create idols. And I think we all do that. I'm a huge One Piece fan. My flag up there. I know it's hard to see. Now, I don't worship this. No. But I do find a lot of the times in my life, circling back to that first commandment, that reading One Piece or getting into that next One Piece chapter or episode sometimes comes before God. And I need to be more cognitive of that. I think the more conscious you're of something, the more you're actively making decisions to negate that. Okay? So, that's the second one. Don't make any idols. And that goes down to your favorite celebrity, your favorite TV show, money. A lot of people make idols out of money. So, and I think that's a good thing because you're going to die one day. Essentially, this is how I read this. This is my mind interpreting this. God's saying you're going to be dead one day, and none of this crap, all these little things that you could make or have, it's not going to go with you in your grave. Remember, the Egyptians would put gold and their fortunes and stuff in their graves before they died because they thought that would take it to the afterlife. You're dead, homie. You're dead. You're gone. None of that comes with you. You're gone. You know what will come with you? Your spirit. So, let's go on. You shall not misuse the Lord, the name of the Lord, your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. So I'm right there. I think I'm going to hell. Right there. God's saying that I'm not guiltless. I'm not guiltless. Now, I know that the covenant established with Jesus. We'll talk about that later. But this is something I'm bad at. And even on the small scale, I'm not out here saying GD, G damn, all the time. I'm not doing that. That's not usually how I talk. But I will say, oh my G, or holy, which is calling. I think if you're saying holy in the S word, you're calling on God at that point in time. In my personal opinion, you might say, no, 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 no. But I personally need to be better than that. And now you might say, how is that objectively good? Who cares if you curse with God's name in mind? Well, would you curse with your mother's name in mind? Would you cuss with your children's name in mind? Probably not. Probably not. And that's what God's saying, like, don't use my name in vain. That's not who I am. When you use my name, use it in the appropriate context. So I can get behind that. God's the master of the universe. I know that when we're like comedians, for example, they say nothing is sacred. I agree to an extent. Like, comedians should be able to joke about anything. That's the point. They're comedians. It's a joke. But some things should be sacred. Some things. Now, I find it awfully funny how these comedians, they will talk all day about Christianity, but they wouldn't step towards Islam because they know those Muslims will cut their heads off, set their house on fire. But I'm not going to linger on that for too long. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days shall labor. Blah 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 blah. Let me restart that. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not work or do any work, neither you nor your son nor your daughter nor male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord has made heavens and earth. The Lord made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Sabbath here. Now, why do I think it's good, objectively good? Because I said that at the beginning, so I have to make a case for it why it's objectively good. I know that there are self-driven entrepreneurs out there who are working 60 plus hours a week, 80 plus hours a week, working their butts off, sleeping in their car, sleeping in their office, just to get that business started. But I think you owe it to yourself to rest. Like, let's just say that you're a workout individual, you work out a lot, you're a workout junkie. You know that if you're hitting the gym, because I used to wrestle in high school, and I used to kickbox a little bit not too long ago, a couple years ago. And something that you have to do is you need rest in between. You can't work out every single day. I can't bench press my max every single day. That's literally impossible because your body has to repair itself. When you're working out, you're tearing your muscles. Then they have to repair themselves. So God is saying rest. Take it easy. And I think it's not just good for you physically. I think it's good for you spiritually, mentally, and emotionally just to relax. Now, I know some people literally cannot relax. They have to keep going. I know that. For example, people who work in the hospital field. Sunday doesn't rest. Sick people don't rest. So this one is a hard one to stand by. I think it's objectively good to have a day of rest. But I don't know if Sunday has to be that day of rest for you. Let's continue on. Honor your father and mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God has given you. So let's take out the land stuff. Let's start with the mother and father. I was raised in the system. So you might say to yourself, well, why would you honor your mother and father? My mother was a drug addict and she went to prison when I was very young, and my father was just absent like a lot of, unfortunately, black fathers tend to be. I would never do that. I would be poor. I could be dirt poor living in a box, and I would still come here and I would still see my little girl and my little girls and my son consistently. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not talking about me. Even with that premise, my father and mother not being a major point of my life, I've met them later in life, and let me tell you something. I do honor and respect them. And even if you're in my situation and you like, I hate my parents. I can't stand them. You can honor from a distance. I can respect from a distance. For example, I'm going to flip it. Let's just say that you have a boss. You have a boss at work, okay? And you really don't like that boss. But you have to respect their position of authority. Same concept. So I think this is objectively good. Let's move on because I'm getting high in as far as like the length of this. You shall not murder. Easy. Don't need to say anything. You shall not commit adultery. And I read this as no sex outside of marriage between a man and a woman. So yes, I am a perpetual offender of this one. But why is that objectively good? Why shouldn't you have sex outside of the marriage between you and your spouse? Well, we live in a world of insecurities. Why? I think mostly because people are having premarital sex. People are constantly comparing themselves to her. I know, being a man, having been with a woman who's been with other people, you're thinking to yourself, do I last as long as the last guy? Am I as long as him? Am I physically as big, as thick as he is? These are the things that come to your mind. And if you're out there saying to yourself, no, I've never thought that, you're a liar. Because we all have those thoughts. And in a just world where me and my spouse are the only two who have experienced each other in this manner, in a sexual context, then we would not need to worry about that. I'm not comparing myself to someone else because she's never had anyone to compare me to. And vice versa. This would be beautiful. This would be a beautiful way to live. But we just don't do it. We're very promiscuous. We've encouraged promiscuity. And you might say that's a good thing. It's good. Great. If that's what you believe in. But I would say there'd be a lot less diseases. There would be a lot less broken families. And there would be a lot more happiness if we did not commit adultery. If we just waited until we got married and we didn't get divorced because, I'm just not feeling it anymore. We got divorced over real things like adultery. So let's continue on. You should not steal. Easy. Don't need to justify it. You should not give false testimony against your neighbor. I shouldn't have to justify that. You should not give false testimony to anyone. If you didn't witness something or if you witnessed events, you should tell it accurately as you saw it, as it happened. Because keep in mind, especially in the testimony context, someone's life might be on the line. You should not covet your neighbor's house. You should not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male or female servants, his ox or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. I think that's good. You should not look at your neighbor and say, man, I want that. If you want it, go get it. Not from your neighbor. You need to work for it. You should not look at anyone and think, man, I really, really want what they have. And I'm bad at that. I'm constantly comparing myself to my peers, my contemporaries, especially my friends who are much, much, much more successful than I am. Always comparing myself to them. And I need to be more mindful of that. So when the people saw the thunder and lightning, and they heard the trumpet, and they saw the mountain and smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die. Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning. The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. So I'm actually going to pause there, and I want to really emphasize on this one part here. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be enough, will keep you from sinning. What does that tell you? Fear is a great institution. It's a great deterrent. I know that a lot of us more soft-hearted people think to ourselves, man, like the prison sentences are crazy. The death penalty, that's nuts. No. Those things offer deterrence. If you know that if you were to walk into somebody's house and kill them, that the government's going to kill you, you're probably not going to do that. If you know that if you abduct a child and you have sexual relationships with that child, rape, and the government's going to dismember your part, male or female, and then have you publicly executed, you're going to go, oh, I'm not going to do that. Fear is good. Fear is good. And honestly, the USA has gotten away from using fear as a tool. Fear is one of the most effective tools to rule people. And honestly, people say, well, you shouldn't fear going to hell to worship God. It's saying it right here. Now, I'm not saying that should be your only reason to worship God. I worship God, at least I think I do, because I look at the universe and the cosmos and I cannot fathom something being built out of nowhere. I can only see this intelligent, beautiful, amazing intellectual who designed everything intimately and intentionally. That's the way that I view the world. I cannot look in the sky and think, man, there's trillions of atoms up there in the sky forming the clouds that will eventually come down in the form of rain, that will make their way back up to the sky in the form of well, it comes down, precipitation, condensation goes back up. So that's incredible. That's incredible. I cannot fathom. Now, you might say that's the way that the weather works, but either way, that's how my mind takes in information, right? Everything you see around you is molecularly and atomically designed. Now, fear of going to hell only reinforces my belief. It's not my one crutch. I don't want to go to hell for eternity. And I will do anything for God to make sure that that does not become a reality. But God doesn't talk to me. He talks to other people, apparently. I don't know that I believe that personally, but I never heard from God. But let's continue on. I'm wasting time. I need to get this done. Now, this is the same part, but a different section. It says, idols and altars. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites this. You have seen for yourselves that I have spoken to you from heaven. Do not make any gods to be alongside me. And do not make for yourself gods of silver or gold, or gods of gold. Make an altar of earth for me and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, your sheep and goats and your cattle. Wherever I cause my name to be honored, I will come to you and bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it. And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. And that is the end of chapter 20. So I had a lot of commentary on that one. I do think that the Ten Commandments are objectively good commandments to follow. And if everyone were following them to the T, this would be an objectively more peaceful, beautiful, flourishing world, society of people. But I'm going to leave that there. I hope you all have a lovely day. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I need to be better about this. Honestly, this is me enacting my fear of God. My fear of God is pushing me to read this Bible and try to understand it in my own way so that I can form a relationship with God. Because I've personally never felt that. I've never felt that in my life, and I want to. So I hope you all have a blessed day, a blessed weekend. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully. Prayers. God bless.